entire mainstream media of this country was speaking like spokespersons of the BJP. They were campaigning for the BJP. They were creating a mahal of 400 par more than the BJP was doing. Should it not be all right for all the pollsters to say, I'm principally working for the BJP. Here, I'm in my capacity as a pollster doing exit poll. Aaj tantra pe lok ki vijay hui. So Rajdeep, the British analyst or whoever told you after 10 years these things happen, he probably doesn't live in India. But I think it's time we begin to realize, Rahul, that reality has changed. Something has happened in the last 12 hours, Rahul. I really want you to begin to believe these things. I mean, I see many captions running on your channel even today, which must have been designed yesterday anticipating 320 seats for the BJP.
Yogendra Yadav was someone who stood out and said that he believed there was no way in which the NDA would reach 272. In fact, he predicted the BJP between 240 and about 260, and that's perhaps as close as anyone has come.
The interesting thing is, Yogendra Yadav said, originally, I've given up predictions and projections. Then he started doing it during this election. And hats off, Professor Yadav, you've kind of hit this one out of the park. The pollsters who are on the ground with much larger sample surveys struggled in the end. Yours was more anecdotal. You were traveling, you were trying to collect with very limited resources, and yet you called Uttar Pradesh right, and in that you called the story of this election. So many, many congratulations to you. Tell us, what were you seeing and reading, which all these much wanted pollsters clearly weren't?
I don't think these things should be given that much of an importance. To my mind, pollsters are just post when they get it right. I don't think dancing in the studio is a very good idea. And when they get it wrong, making someone cry in the studio is also not a good idea. I think all we need is to reflect on this. And you are absolutely right, Rahul. I did not want to do psephology. I'd given it up 12 years ago. I don't want to do it. I had to come in as a political activist who saw that the tools of survey were being misused to hoodwink this country in an attempt in which all the major media channels, including yours, was a partner. So I, as a
no, but can I quarrel with that just to say that had we put out pre-poll surveys?
I know you won't like it, Rahul. Why don't you listen to me?
But you must hear this also. Had it been a pre-poll study, you could have said, what you could have said would have been true, that this is an attempt to influence the election, that charge could have been applied. This is a post-poll study. This has been put at a time when polling is over. There is no bearing. I mean, the only thing you get is either you get the kudos for getting it right or you get the brickbats for getting it wrong. There's really nothing else at stake. So you can't blame the media for doing a post-poll study, which is really our effort to try and understand how the elections really unfolded, sir.
हाँ बेटा, लगता है तुम गू खा के ही मानोगे.
How did you assume, Rahul, that I was speaking of the exit poll? I was speaking of the coverage by the media throughout this campaign, and when I decided to come back and perform this role, which is about 2 months ago, it was clearly not in response to any post-poll or exit poll. You don't need to be very defensive about it. All I'm saying is that the entire mainstream media of this country was speaking like spokespersons of the BJP. They were campaigning for the BJP. They were creating a mahal of 400 par more than the BJP was doing. And all the so-called election analysis, and remember, there were lots and lots of pre-poll forecasting going on. Everything had created this impression, aayega to Modi hai to mumkin hai, 400 par. I kept quiet. I must say I was also somewhat intimidated by all this till I traveled. When I traveled and then saw this was complete nonsense, then I stepped in and said, all right, it's my duty. It may have been my old role. I don't earn my bread from this. And I don't want to be a psephologist. And on your show, I'm announcing, thank you very much, done my duty only once. This is not my role. I don't want to perform it. This is not my scene in life. So I had to do it out of this exigency. I'm glad it was all right. I'm glad I got the range right. I empathize with my friends who may have got it wrong today. Pradeep Gupta has had a very good track record. It's the day-to-day to remember. He got it wrong. It doesn't matter. It happens to all of us. Number two, that many channels upped their forecasts to include 401, 4011, 411, as if to say कि 400 par to hum karwa hi denge. That surprised me. And the third thing that surprised me is that channels do not do that elementary declaration about conflict of interest. If, like I do, I come on your channel, I say I'm a political activist who has this position in this election, and these are my assessments. Similarly, should it not be all right for all the pollsters to say, I'm principally working for the BJP. Here, I'm in my capacity as a pollster doing exit poll. This much disclosure should be mandatory. It's mandatory all over the world.
in your estimate, how is Modi 3.0 likely to be different from what India has seen in the past 10 years? How is the opposition likely to be different, given that Congress is about 100? How is the opposition likely to be different from what we've seen over the past 10 years?
Rahul, today was a very, very big day in India's democracy, and I can only put it in Hindi. आज तंत्र पे लोक की विजय हुई है. You know, the tantra, the system which has been dominating, that system has been, people have triumphed once again. And it's not just a piece of rhetoric. This happens very, very rarely, that a political party which is in command of everything, which has money, which has all the mainstream media, which has the entire establishment, unfortunately even the election commission, that is defeated the way it is. I heard someone talk about celebrating a defeat. And I personally thought what the Prime Minister was doing today was exactly that. It was celebration of frankly, a political defeat. How would it impact?
No, hold on to that. Can I just stop you? No, 1 minute. Yogendra ji, can I just stop you on that? When you say that he's celebrating a political defeat, I heard a commentator from the United Kingdom saying, look, 10 years in power, and you still come back, how does it become a defeat? Look at the gap between 1 and 2, it's still extended. So when you say it's a political defeat and the opposition is not celebrating a loss, what do you mean?
No, sir, not just gap between 1 and 2. The BJP by itself is more than the entire India bloc put together. So Yogendra ji, when you answer this question, you will have to keep in mind this fact that the India alliance taken together is at 234. Out of the 291 that the NDA has at this moment, the BJP by itself is 239. BJP individually 5 more than the entire India alliance taken together.
Thanks for the effort, Rahul, that you have put into all this mathematics. I have done numbers, and one of the things that I have learned from trying to do political numbers is that political numbers make sense in the political context. So Rajdeep, the British analyst or whoever told you after 10 years these things happen, he probably doesn't live in India. There's a very different context to it, and all of us know it. Rajdeep, you know it. Rahul, you know it. And every one of the audience knows it. In this was not a normal contest. Here is a contest where there is a stranglehold over power, where there is, in terms of money, BJP had probably, 10, 20, 100 times more money that they were spending on this election than anyone else. That they had the entire media of this country lined up as their spokesperson. I think the British person may not have ever seen it, so he may not be familiar with all these things. They normally, in normal, healthy democracies, you don't have such servile media as we've had in this country for the last 10 years. That all the institutions of governance were aligned, and that the election commission was playing a disgraceful role. They must not have seen all that. It is in this context, and the announcement of 400 par, and the entire media echoing 400 par, and till day before yesterday, we were discussing 400 par. In that context, getting 240, 30 seats below majority is defeat. There is no other word for it. I know it must be very hard to take it for many people, but I think it's time we begin to realize, Rahul, that reality has changed. Something has happened in the last 12 hours, Rahul. I really want you to begin to believe these things.
Even though you will have 5 more years, you're saying this even though we will have 5 more years of Prime Minister Modi. We will probably still have 5 more years of Prime Minister Modi, Yogendra Yadav.
There is a difference, Rajdeep, between forming the government and having a popular mandate. Very often governments lose a popular mandate, but they still manage to form governments. Of course he would run a government. I'm not saying his government is, if he forms. As of now, he has not. And all this talk about Mr. Modi becoming Prime Minister for the 3rd time is absolutely premature. Those who know anything about legality, those who know anything about how governments are formed should not be saying all this today. They can say it the day after tomorrow when the formality is completed. But more importantly, yes, he would have government. But there's something called Iqbal. I don't know the right expression in English for that. Governments have Iqbal. They have certain legitimacy. They have certain aura that actually gives government power to get things done. This would be government minus Iqbal. And that is where the difference is. And for that, I see many positives coming from that, Rajdeep, if I can quickly say that. Number one, I find, as Rahul has anticipated, opposition to be more vocal. I expect the opposition to actually get space to speak in the parliament, which was not the case earlier. I really, really expect the media to open up, and such a lovely sight it would be if the media in this country were to start speaking. I mean, I see many captions running on your channel even today, which must have been designed yesterday anticipating 320 seats for the BJP. But reality has changed. I'm really hoping that media would wake up. They would find some voice. I do expect the judiciary also to find greater courage, can I say, or greater attention to the letter and spirit of Constitution, something that has been somewhat blurred over the last few years. I do expect democratic institutions to open up, and above all, I expect protests, movements, and resistance to strengthen. And that, please don't get frightened, this is the best thing that can happen to a democracy. And this country was born out of an Andolan. The PM doesn't quite realize it. But Andolans becoming strong, democratic resistance becoming strong is a lovely idea. So today is a lovely day. We have seen opening of democracy. Tantra has been subdued by Lok for a moment. Let's cherish that moment and let's hope something really good would come out of it.
शाबाश बेटा, बहुत बढ़िया।
क्या हुआ? कुछ मुंह में घुसेड़ा, उसके बाद गले को उधेड़ के नाक से बाहर निकाला, उसके बाद मेरी बत्ती गुल हो गई।
अब बताइए मैं क्या करूंगा?
एक बहुत सिंपल सी टिप आपके साथ शेयर करती हूँ। अपने हाथ को इस तरीके से रखिए। इफ यू लुक एट दिस फ्रॉम योर साइड, आपका लेफ्ट हैंड आपको बी के जैसे दिखेगा और राइट हैंड आपको डी के जैसे दिखेगा। बी एंड डी। बी फॉर
थोड़ी मदद रखिए।
वे मैं थो तेरा मन पर